strike against Syrian military positions in the capital Damascus and the central province of Homs. People in Damascus woke up to the sounds of explosions before daybreak Saturday, and they saw red dots flying from earth to the sky in what later appeared to be the air defenses responding to the missile attack. The Syrian army said around 110 missiles were fired by the three Western nations against Syrian positions in Damascus and Homs. It said that most of those missiles were intercepted before reaching their targets. One of the targets was a scientific research center near Damascus, and the attack led to damages to the facility. In Homs, also a military base was targeted, but the Syrian army said that missiles were intercepted and they exploded elsewhere, leading to the injury of 3 civilians. Of course, the United States and its allies launched this attack against the backdrop of alleged chemical weapon attack by the Syrian army on the rebel-held Douma district east of Damascus on April 7. At the time, the Syrian government completely denied the allegations and said that it's not in possession of such weapons, and it's also said that Syrian army is emerging victorious, so it doesn't need to use such weapons in the attack. Of course, today, after the attack, people resumed their daily life as usual. We saw people going to their jobs and to their universities, and we see a normal daily life in the capital after this strike, which was anticipated for a long time after a week-long threats by the United States. Actually, the people showed some defiance, and they said that they didn't trust the Syrian army for defending them. And after 7 years of war, this kind of attacks will not keep the people in their homes, and instead they are out for their daily lives. Of course, allegations of the chemical attacks were denied by the government, and the Syrian government said that it was inviting the Organization for Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to send an investigation team to Damascus to look into the allegations of the chemical weapons used in Douma, which the rebels at the time said that the Syrian army used chlorine gas in the attack, which led to the killing of over 40 people. The Syrian foreign minister today also condemned the attack. The Syrian army also condemned the attack and said it will not prevent the military forces from keeping on protecting this country, while hailing the Syrian defense system, the air defenses that, according to the Syrian army, intercepted most of the missiles launched by the United States and its allies on military positions. U.S. President Donald Trump actually said today that he ordered the United States Armed Forces to launch precision strikes on targets associated with the chemical weapon capabilities of the Syrian government. The Russian media said that none of the missiles fired by the Western countries struck areas near its bases in Syria, because when the threats of of retaliation by the United States was made by top U.S. leaders, the Russians were saying that they will not stand indifference, that they will respond to the missiles and they will respond to their launching sites. But today, according to the Russian agencies, they said that none of the missiles were hit near the naval or air bases that are run by the Russians in Syria. Also, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis said that today's attack is a one-time shot, and it aimed to deliver a strong message to the Syrian government. Of course, this is the opinion of those leaders that have been threatening the Syrian government to launch this strike on its military positions. in response to the alleged chemical attack. Of course, as we are talking now, the fact-finding mission of the OPCW is about to reach Damascus and to embark on its mission to look into the allegations in Duma, large swathes of which have returned under the government control with Russian military police inside. Of course, the foreign ministry and the Syrian government said that the attack was happening as this mission was entering Damascus, or as this mission was about to start investigation in Duma. And it was striking a very strong rhetoric about how the Western countries were fabricating these allegations just to strike the Syrian military positions as it's emerging victorious after 7 years of war. Back to the Damascus streets after the strike, when the morning was just coming, people went to the streets and they raised Syrian flags and they were chanting for the Syrian army, and then they resumed their daily life as normal. Of course, the statements keep coming, keep being released from the Syrian government side and from its allies, from Russia and from Iran, in response to this attack, which is not the first actually by the United States. As last April in 2007, the United States also launched a missile strike on an airbase called Shairat in the central province of Homs over the same allegations of chemical weapon used by the Syrian army on the rebel-held areas of Idlib, on a town in Idlib. Actually, the Syrian government at the time also denied these allegations, and this time also they said that these attacks have been carried out without even waiting for the result of the investigations, while the United States have recently said that they have some evidence to support support their strike, of course, but this is a one-time strike. We don't know if there will be more. Everything is now linked to waiting for the results of the investigations by the OPCW fact-finding mission that was called for by the Syrian government and its ally, Russia. And as we can see, the normal traffic on Saturday, even though today is a weekend, but it's a normal daily life, no interception, no people cowering in their homes. Everything seems normal in Damascus. After a busy night, we can say that the people were looking at the sky that were lit up by the air defenses missiles while being launched from the ground to the skies to hit their targets. Of course, now on the Syrian TVs and the state media, they're all putting some national anthems, some national music. They're supporting the army. They're voicing their support to President Bashar al-Assad, who also appeared just before 10 or 15 minutes in a video clip released by the Syrian presidency, that he was resuming his daily routine in his office, that he was entering his office to resume his daily routine. We don't know yet the repercussions of such attack. We don't know yet if it will stop here or if it will continue. No one knows that yet. But everyone, or the observers and analysts, they think that this is a one-time strike that the United States launched along with its allies, and it aimed to deliver a message to the Syrian government and its ally, Russia and Iran also. So no one is expecting more strikes, but the eventualities are still open, and we are still yet to see any kind of retaliatory measures by the Syrian government, besides the shooting down or destroying and intercepting most of the missiles that were launched, according to the Syrian army, a statement that was released just half an hour ago. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said that U.S. strikes had hit the Syrian capital when the country finally had a chance at peace Of course, she meant that, the United States is launching this attack as the rebels were being defeated completely near Damascus, as eastern Ghouta countryside was a major bastion for several rebel groups, and most of those groups have succumbed under the pressure, and they have agreed to evacuate their areas toward rebel-held areas in northern Syria. Douma actually was the last rebel-held bastion in eastern Ghouta, and the suspected attack happened as the Syrian army was launching an operation to push those rebels to leave after they have undermined a previous deal they have reached with the government about their evacuation along with their families. Their evacuation is ongoing. They have resumed this deal, and they have agreed to leave, and now so they are keep on evacuating Douma toward the rebel-held area of Jarablus in northern Syria. So as the Syrian government and its allies are saying that the West is trying to intervene and try to complicate things more, as the Syrian government is capturing areas and it's securing the vicinity of the capital that has been threatened by mortar shells and some attacks in the past 6 or 7 years. So now the U.S. attack is over. The evacuation from Douma is still ongoing. Everyone is now looking at the results of the investigation team. With Russia, and the Syrian government said that there are no traces of any chemical material used in an attack in Douma, and they are so assured of that they have invited the OPCW to come and take a look and to investigate this matter even more, so that they can strip the pretext of striking Syria again. So as we have mentioned, life is back. People are moving on the streets to their jobs, and everything seems normal in the capital. Of course, back to the chemical weapons allegations, the Syrian government has repeatedly warned that the rebels were staging such incidents just to draw in foreign military intervention, which seems so ready to do so, just over valid or videotapes and photos that have yet to be verified or they have launched these attacks without even waiting for concrete results of the investigation team that is about to start doing its job in Douma. So this is what's going on here in Damascus and in Syria. Of course, more details will emerge soon about the exact targets, but so far we have heard of the targeting of the Scientific Research Center near Damascus and two military bases in Homs province. And as we have said, the Russians, who have previously vowed to retaliate against the missiles, said that none of these rockets have hit near their bases where Russian defense systems are deployed. Of course, but sure, the Syrian air defenses just did the job, and as we have seen and as we have heard from the government statements, that they have intercepted most of those missiles. This situation of waiting or anticipating this strike has been ongoing for a week with international battles in the Security Council sessions between Russia and the United States, and also other statements by Iran, which also stressed its ongoing support to the Syrian government, and also the Russians, who vowed to protect the Syrian facilities, because they said that they have Russian actually experts in almost every Syrian military site in Syria. So they were fearing that such a strike would actually cause losses and casualties among their soldiers and the Syrian soldiers as well. And this kind of tension between the United States and Russia has actually pushed people to think of the time of the Cold War, or even some people expected that if there was a direct confrontation between Russia and the United States on Syrian soil, that would mean maybe a World War III. But this didn't happen just yet, because as we have said before, the United States said that this was a one-time shot and it aimed to deliver a message. No escalation is expected after this, but of course the results of the investigation team would shed some light over the future of this. Of course, before the Eastern Ghouta countryside thing was over, the Syrian people here, or Damascus in particular, they thought that the war would end in Damascus with the rebel evacuation from Eastern Ghouta. But later on, while the rebels were lastly defeated in Douma, this chemical weapons allegations and claims have emerged, and they draw an international intervention, well, diplomatically or militarily. So this has elevated the expectations of the people who thought that the war would be over by the defeat of the rebels. But now we are seeing that the major powers have actually become more and more engaged in this course of action on ground. With Western power, they seem to not wanting to see the emergence or a strong Syrian government back in control over Damascus or elsewhere. And this chemical weapon thing is back on the surface over and over again whenever something major is being prepared. So if you are joining us, we are now live from Damascus. As we have said before, we are near the city center of the capital Damascus, where people woke up at 3:55 a.m. to the sounds of explosions. And actually there was something really strange about this, or maybe it's a result of war, that the people have become so accustomed to the sounds of shelling that we haven't seen anyone cowering in homes or going to underground shelters. On the contrary, some people went on to their balconies and windows and started snapping photos of the red dots flying from earth to the sky, the air defense missiles that were intercepting the US-led missiles. And afterwards, they took to the streets, to the Umayyad Square in the heart of Damascus, and they were chanting for the Syrian army and striking some defiant language against the United States. And also there was a lot of interaction on social media as well, with people posting the Syrian flags and some posts encouraging the Syrian army and supporting it in the face of what they called the foreign military strike or intervention by the superpowers. So as the United States was defending its strike, the U.S. President Donald Trump said that he ordered the United States forces to launch precision strikes on targets associated with the chemical weapon capabilities of the Syrian government. So they were defending this strike, and they said that they have evidences of the use of toxic gas by the Syrian government, something that has been vehemently denied by the government here, which said that the West is always trying to search for a pretext to justify its intervention or to justify striking Syrian military positions. Of course, before the strike, there was some kind of battle of words online. Actually, we have seen tweets by U.S. President Trump about sending his smart missiles to Syria, and his calling for the Russians to be prepared. Everyone was expecting, or everyone was thinking that this kind of attack or this kind of threats were actually between the superpowers themselves, and that everyone was trying to settle the score on the Syrian ground. But now, after the strike, as we have mentioned before, the life back to normal. It seems like it's a one-time shot. We're waiting for the results of the investigation team, which the Syrian government said it was sure there was no chemical weapon use, and also there is no materials. The Russian also said that they have sent teams inside Duma, and they made sure that there was no toxic material used. They said there's no traces of that, and they have accused the West and the rebels of fabricating the footages and the photos that have went online and attracted this crescendo of international condemnation and threats of strikes. Okay, so now we're ending this live broadcast, looking at the people back to their normal life after this early morning strike in Syria. And after this whole week of anticipation, as people were waiting and waiting, and they have started also joking online about when the missiles would be launched and stuff like that. So it was a busy week, and it seems like it has ended today morning with this strike. As we have said, we are anticipating and looking forward for the results of the OPCW fact-finding mission. And afterwards, there will be maybe new developments or new things will happen afterwards. No one knows. But as for now, Damascus is fine. People are back to their normal lives. The strike seems like a one-time thing. And the Syrian government said it's sure that these claims are fabricated and that hasn't carried out any chemical attack, and that it's not in possession of such weapons, and it doesn't need to do that with the army emerging victorious and capturing major parts of this country.